Hello learners, I'm Cynthia Mwa, your Integrated Science Facilitator. Today our topic is solid liquid mixture. Solid liquid mixture. Now before we start today's lesson, let's look at our homework on the last time we met. Homework number 1. What is a reversible change? What is a reversible change? And we have this. In a reversible change, no new substance is formed. In a reversible change, no new substance is formed. Question number 2. State 2 examples of reversible change. State 2 examples of reversible change. And we have 1. Turning of ice to water. 2. Folding a paper. Folding a paper. Good. Question number 3. What is irreversible change? What is irreversible change? And the answer is, in an irreversible change, a material completely changes into a new and different material. In an irreversible change, a material completely changes into a new and different material. Question number 4. State 2 examples of irreversible change. State 2 examples of irreversible change. And we have 1. Cooking popcorn. Cooking popcorn. And then 2. Frying an egg. Frying an egg. Good. Now today's topic. Today, our topic is solid liquid mixture. Solid liquid mixture. Now, before we start today's lesson, let's look at our lesson objectives. Lesson objectives. At the end of the lesson, you will be able to 1. Describe a solid liquid mixture. Describe a solid liquid mixture. 2. State 2 ways of separating solid liquid mixtures. State 2 ways of separating solid liquid mixtures. So at the end of the lesson, you will be able to 1. Describe a solid liquid mixture. 2. State 2 ways of separating solid liquid mixtures. So, let's start our lesson. What is a solid? What is a solid? Good. What is a solid substance? What is a solid substance? A solid is a substance that does not flow or move freely. A solid is a substance that does not flow or move freely. Now, solids are fixed in shape. Solids are fixed in shape. Examples are, we have wood. Now you can see that it is fixed in shape. The particles are fixed. 2. We have glass. Is a solid. Glass is a solid. 3. We have stone. So a stone is a solid. We have wood, glass, stone. So a solid is a substance that does not flow or move freely. Examples, we have another one, gari. Gari is also a solid. Sand is also solid. And then salt is also solid. So a solid is a substance that does not flow or move freely. Solid are fixed in shape. Examples, we have gari, sand, salts. Now, another question says, what is a liquid? What is a liquid? Now, what is a liquid substance? A liquid is a substance that can flow freely. A liquid is a substance that can flow freely. And we have example to be water. Water is a liquid. We have palm oil. Palm oil. So palm oil is a liquid. We have coconut oil. Coconut oil. So coconut oil is also a liquid. And we have another example, honey. Honey is also a liquid. We have kerosene. Kerosene is also a liquid. And then soup. Soup is also a liquid. So a liquid is a substance that can flow freely. We have honey, kerosene, and then soup. So this is a liquid. Now, what is a solid liquid mixture? What is a solid liquid mixture? So what is a solid liquid mixture? This mixture is formed when you mix a solid substance with a liquid substance. This mixture is formed when you mix a solid substance with a liquid substance. So we have example to be sand and water. Sand and water is solid liquid mixture. We have another one, maize and water. Maize and water is solid liquid mixture. We have gari and water. So gari and water is solid liquid mixture. Good. So this mixture is formed when you mix a solid substance with a liquid substance. So we have sugar and water. We have salt and water. When you mix, you get a mixture of sugar and water and a mixture of salts and water. So when a solid substance like sugar dissolves in water, the mixture formed is called a solution. This one you can't see individual substance in the container, so it is called a solution. So we have a solution of sugar, a solution of salts. So you have sugar solution and salt solution, and it forms solid liquid mixture. Solid liquid mixture. Now, how to separate the solid and the liquid mixture? How to separate solid liquid mixture? And the first one, we have filtration. Filtration. The first method of separating solid liquid mixture is filtration, as we can see on our screen. Now, what is filtration? Filtration is used when the solid substance is large enough to be seen in the mixture. Filtration is used when the solid substance is large enough to be seen in the mixture. So as we can see on our screen, we have maize and water. So we can use the method of filtration to separate the maize and then water. So filtration using colander or strainer. So a colander and a strainer can be used to separate a solid liquid mixtures. Now this is because large solid particles cannot pass through the holes of the colander or the strainer. So a colander and a strainer can be used to separate a solid liquid mixtures. Why? Because the solid has large particles and cannot pass through the colander or the strainer. So we have the colander and then the strainer on our screen. Now filtration using a colander. A colander being used to separate a mixture of grains of maize and water. Yes, this is the colander, and when we put our mixture in it, we can get our water and then the maize back. So this is how we do it. So let's look on our screen. Look at it. This is our colander and the mixture. We pour it in, we get our maize and then the water. Now filtration using a strainer. Using a strainer. Now a strainer being used to separate a mixture of pasta and water. So as we have been using it. So let's look at it. After you get your food and then your water, get your pasta as the food and the water back. Yes, so you can see the water and then the pasta being separated. Good. So filtration using a strainer. Now filtration. This is used when the solid particles are very small. Now this time the particles are very, very small or smooth in the mixture. An example is a mixture of sand and water. This one, we can use the colander or the strainer. So let's look at what we will use. Good. So filtration using filter paper. So this time we will use our filter paper to separate the mixtures. We use the filter paper. So separating a mixture of sand and water. So we are coming to look at it, how we will separate it. Now the things that we need our beaker, we need our funnel, and we get our filter paper. Our filter paper. Let's look at how we will do it. Separating a mixture of sand and water. So this is our filter paper. Let's look at how we will use it. Let's look at it. We have small, very, very small holes. So we fold it and then we put it in the funnel and we pour our mixture in it. The holes in the filter paper are very, very small, so the sand cannot pass through. It cannot pass through. It's only the water that passes through the filter paper. So we can all see it. So the water is called the filtrate. Filtrate. And the sand is called the residue. So this is our filter paper. Let's continue filtration using filter paper. This time separating a mixture of corn dough and water. Corn dough and water. So let's look at how we will do it. This is a conical flask, a conical flask, and we have our beaker. The beaker, we get our funnel, and the last one is the filter paper. So these are the things that we will need to separate the corn dough and then the water. So let's look at how we will do it, separating a mixture of corn dough and water. So we have our mixture, and then we fold our filter paper into 4, and we put it in the funnel. Now we pour our corn dough and water in the funnel, and let's look at how it is done. So let's look at it. The water will pass through the filter paper into the beaker. Let's look at it. It needs time. Good. So we have our corn dough back. So we have separated the water and the corn dough. Separation of solid liquid mixture using a filter paper, and the mixture is corn dough and water. Now filtration using cotton clothes. Filtration using cotton clothes. So let's look at it. Separating a mixture of corn dough and water. We can also use cotton cloth. And let's look at how we will do it. We put the clothes on the beaker. We use a tie band, and then we pour it in. Now, since the holes are very small, they cannot pass through it. So we get our corn dough back, and our water also separated. So this is how we use filtration to separate corn dough and water using cotton cloths. So the second method of separating mixture is the evaporation. Evaporation. Let's all say it. Evaporation. Now, what is evaporation? Evaporation is used to separate a solid substance that dissolves in a liquid substance in a mixture by use of heat. Now, this time we use heat to do it. So we can use sugar and water, and then salt and water. Good. So evaporation, separating a mixture of salt and water. Salt and water. So we have our salt solution. Water plus salt is called salt solution. We have our evaporating dish. And then we have our to separate the mixtures. So we need our salt solution, evaporating dish, and then the Bunsen burner. So these are the things that we need to separate the salt and then the water. And the last one is the stand, the tripod stand. So this is how we do it, separating a mixture of salt and water. Now we put our solution on the tripod stand, and we apply the heat. So the water will evaporate from the Bunsen burner. Let's look at it, leaving the salt in the evaporating dish. Let's look at it again. We have our salt solution, and we are boiling, and the water will evaporate, leaving the salts. So we have separated the salts and water using evaporation. Solid liquid mixtures. Now we looked at the solid a substance that cannot flow freely, and the particles are fixed. And we look at the liquid, a substance that can flow freely. Yes. And we also look at the liquid, solid liquid mixtures. We look at solid liquid mixtures, salts and water, sugar and water, corn dough and water. These are examples of solid liquid mixtures we looked at. Now we look at the separation solid liquid mixtures. So we look at the method of separating the solid liquid mixtures. And we looked at filtration using colander or strainer. You can also use cotton cloths. Yes, and we also looked at evaporation using heat to separate mixtures like the salt solution. So this is the end of our lesson for today. So let's test ourselves on solid liquid mixtures. Solid liquid mixtures. Question number 1. Are examples of granite gravels? So is it liquids? Are they liquids? Are they gases? Or are they solids? Okay. So they are solids. They are solids. So beans is a solid, granite is a solid, and gravels are all solids. Good. Question number 2. Question number 2. Sand and water can be separated by. Sand and water can be separated by. We have filter paper, we have colander, and then sand and water can be separated by, yes, filter paper. Why? Because the particles of the sand are very, very small. So we can't use colander or strainer. We use filter paper. We use filter paper, colander. Because the particles of the grains of maize are very big and they cannot pass through. Learners? Yes, we use evaporation. To evaporate and we get our sugar back. The last question: if solid particles can dissolve